Hello and welcome to our special edition of POLOTIKI, brought to you by News 24. My name is Mahlatse Gallens. We are live from the Nasrec Expo Center south of Johannesburg. It is day 4 of the ANC's policy conference, and of course in the past 3 days we have had ANC delegates discussing in detail some of the internal challenges facing the party. They have recognized them as ranging from state capture by the Gupta family. They've talked about the growing distance between them and the electorate. Obviously, in view of 2019 elections, the party has admitted that it has seen a decline in support at the polls since the 2009 elections. And all of these past 3 days has been about how to actually renew the party. Some of the leaders have said today the real battle begins, because today it's when the delegates go into sectoral commissions, where of course the one on economic transformation is expected to be quite heated. We've heard from the leaders disagreeing on how to radically transform South Africa's economy. They are in agreement that it needs to be an inclusive economy. They are in agreement that you need more black people in the economic space. But of course, how do you define it and how do you get there? Those are the issues that they will be discussing. The real crisis of the South African economy is top of mind. We know that we are in a technical recession, unemployment rate is growing, and how do you reverse this trend? Of course, it's also where the proxy battle towards the December elective conference is also underway. But to catch you up to speed with what has been happening here at the ANC's 5th policy conference, I'm joined by our politics reporter, Tsidi Madia. Tsidi, of course, we started day 1 with, the one contested issue around the inclusion of the issue of state capture by the Gupta family into the policy discussion documents of the ANC. Are delegates discussing these issues behind closed doors?
I believe some delegates are still talking about it, including senior leaders, Mahlatse. It was adopted, as you were saying now. There was a bit of contention around whether or not to actually bring it up, because it's now part of an ANC policy conference. It goes down in the history books. President Jacob Zuma, in essence, has now become the Gupta president, whether he likes it or not, by virtue of the fact that it was actually tabled a few days ago. And as you're saying now, discussions will start today in earnest. But people are still hung up on this issue of state capture, because South Africans themselves are still hung up. So the ANC, in essence, has no choice. I was speaking to a senior journalist outside, and we're saying there's been a lull, but in this lull where we don't know what's happening in commissions, where they're discussing the state of the party, organizational renewal, strategy and tactics, they are talking about this one particular thing because it won't leave. Lindiwe Sisulu was speaking on one of the radio stations yesterday in Gauteng, and she said it's like a noose that's hanging around the ANC's neck. They need to do something about state capture, and they need to be seen to be doing something quickly, because 2019 is actually around the corner. We're not that far away, and South Africans will remember if the ANC said we will do something and then proceeded to not do something. South Africans will say to the ANC, we saw you, we've been watching you, we expected better of you, and they'll take power from the governing party. So some leaders are kind of aware of that, and the fact that their integrity is being questioned by the very people who they want to give them a mandate come 2019.
And of course also, Tsidi, the issue of the Judicial Commission of Inquiry. Are we getting a sense that they are finding agreement in terms of what should be the terms of reference? Because some people wanted to start beyond 1994. Others are saying it should specifically be around the Gupta family and the allegations that have come through, especially with those Gupta emails.
I think we're going to get more clarity on that as policy proceeds, or as the year proceeds itself. As you're saying, there's no agreement rather as to when it should start. On this particular issue, I've consistently said, but the public protector, the former public protector, Thuli Madonsela, when she spoke about a judicial inquiry, she had a specific period in mind, a specific issue in mind. She opened up a body to figure out what's happening and found that the cancer had spread throughout the body. It's almost like that's what Thuli Madonsela dealt with. She opened up a body to see what the problem was. The cancer had spread all over the place. It's too big for her, and she asked for them to deal with it. It's not about 1994. It's not about 1948. It's about what's happened under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma. Was the president influenced by this particular family? The family that's found itself, in its way rather, into ANC's papers, ANC's discussions. That's family, that's the issue.
And of course, the succession debate also hasn't escaped this policy conference. We heard from KZN's chairperson, Sihle Zikalala, suggesting that, you know, the two leaders, the two front runners, Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma and Cyril Ramaphosa, they should contest, but the loser should automatically become deputy president. How is that being received?
You know, there's so many proposals on the table. On the sidelines of this policy conference, or even during commissions, what I'm understanding is that you can't find certain chairs in commissions. You can go around looking for them, but communicators will say we can't find them anyway, because some of them are having meetings. Some of them at St. George's having caucuses about the way forward, the next couple of months, the last leg really, towards the elective conference, what's to be done. Some are suggesting, like Sihle Zikalala, that the loser must take a deputy position. Others are suggesting that they increase the positions in terms of the structures, in terms of the top officials, saying they want 2 deputy presidents, 3 DSGs. So there's discussions, and those discussions hopefully will bring about a consensus or a unifying slate, if you may, that will help the ANC then move towards 2019 as a unified whole. I struggle with that in that, is the answer having more top officials? Does that mean unity? It almost feels like for unity, just like these past 2 days, you can't discuss the ANC's problems, which are so many and so deep, over 2 days and think you're done. With the succession debate in mind, people are more focused on that. So I don't think whatever they come up with, be it a consensus, an uncontested top of elective conference, I don't believe that that will hold. I think even if that agreement is done and they reach December without, let's say, bloodshed, if you may, I don't believe that it will carry through until 2019. I think if that's what they do, by the time we get to elections in 2019, we'll start seeing the fractions again. And they can't help themselves but to play themselves out in the public domain.
And of course, the other elephant in the room has been the issue of the stalwarts. We understand that some delegates were quite unhappy with the way President Jacob Zuma talked about them, referring to them as so-called leaders. We've also heard that some are saying that he should actually apologize to them.
Absolutely. Some are saying he should apologize. And others are also speaking about President Jacob Zuma in terms of should he stay or not. But that's an argument that a lot of people have squashed as far as I understand, saying he steps down in December. That's just around the corner. What's the point of trying to get the NEC to step down now? It's pointless. We're already there. With regards to stalwarts, yeah, they're saying President Jacob Zuma needs to apologize for the comments he made on Friday. Speaking of which, I know you spoke to Mavuso Msimang, one of the stalwarts, and he was saying that they're lying. What the SG of the ANC, Kwede Mantashe, and President Jacob Zuma have been saying with regards to what the stalwarts' positions are is a lie. I mean, what we've been told and what the ANC delegates have been told is that the stalwarts think they're too dumb, in essence, to help try and self-correct the party. They're not worthy of being part of that process from what we're hearing. And they're saying that's a lie. They don't think so little of their own branches.
And of course, TD, we've also had a range of proposals from, in terms of organizational renewal. It's not only about increasing the number of top officials, but there's also talk about the caucus of the ANC in Parliament being part of the constitution to regulate how they actually operate. And also there's this other suggestion, for example, to say that you must have this revolutionary electoral commission that will vet, in essence, those that are running for leadership positions.
The Revolutionary Council is quite interesting because I don't know if you got the answer. I'm still not too sure who's worthy of being in the Revolutionary Council because the stalwarts are also being questioned. Their own integrity and credibility is consistently being questioned. It'll be interesting if they do manage to get a council and with leaders with integrity to assist in the vetting process, and how that impacts the ANC's own democratic processes itself will be interesting. Will they take a position where you suggest names, and then they go through a CV, see if you're worthy? That's their own eye of the needle, in essence. So it'll be interesting to see if that does come into play after December, and how it comes into play. But most importantly for me, who are the faces that the ANC itself considers to be credible, with integrity, to guide the party towards having the kind of leaders that will avert the kind of problems the party's sitting with as we speak?
Because, as you said, they have questioned some of the stalwarts. They've been called names in the past, and Fikile Mbalula suggesting there that you're looking for people that are no longer interested in leadership positions, but they might have interest in who actually becomes the leader.
It's interesting. It's very tricky because when you say people who aren't interested in leadership positions, you want them to still remain interested in the party, but the ANC views stalwarts as people who lost an interest at some point. You know, they've been called that many times. Pure Nyanda is one of them, where people said you sought your own interests, and then maybe things aren't working out for you. Maybe things are failing. Now you're seeking a way in. I'm not thinking about Matthew's Pausa, who, as far as we understand, you are now a businessman, but he's raised his hand. He said he wants to be president of the ANC. Whether he's written it off or not, he still sees himself as worthy. So do they then turn to those kind of people? Are those the right kind of people? I'd say Matthew's Pausa, because of the way he's gone back and forth, is not that kind of person. So then who do they turn to if their leaders are like that? And if their current crop of leaders are worried about themselves, stomach of the politics of the stomach, self-preservation, then who is the right person to assist the party find decent leaders?
And of course, today they're saying that the real battle begins. They're going into sectoral commissions, the different commissions. It's the economy, it's education, but the real battle, we're expecting it in the economy commission. What kind of debates should we expect there?
We understood there was an issue around the definition. You and I have spent many, many days speaking to people saying, is it monopoly capital? Is it white monopoly capital? But I think now there is a general understanding that you cannot necessarily divorce the idea of whites from this, because they are the ones who've got the power. As far as economic power in the country is concerned, it lies in the hands of the minority. So I think they've moved past that. It is, I think, the programs that need to be done in order to actually have radical economic transformation. It's more urgent now than ever because the rand is flailing. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is increasing. So there is a greater demand for the ANC to address what's been waiting to be addressed for so many years, now more than ever. And it's a question of how do we do it? What's the best path? You know, some people want to be, I mean, look at the issue of land. It's part and parcel of the RET concept. What do you do? Do you do it? Do you expropriate without compensation? Do you do what the Northwest chairperson, Suprema Humapilo, had suggested, saying the state puts down a price, and then if you say no, then they expropriate without compensation? Or do we have a referendum? So there are many other things. Those are the things that they need to juggle. The best ways towards that, because the ANC, in essence, all seem to agree that we do need radical economic transformation. The questions are, what's the path?
How do you actually get there? You are watching a special edition of Polotiki, brought to you by News 24. Remember, you can get in touch with us via Twitter or Facebook at News 24. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions for our many guests that we will be having until Wednesday, when the ANC closes its policy conference, please leave them there for us, and we will put them to the leaders within the ANC and try and get some answers for you. We are broadcasting live from the Nasrec Expo Center for the ANC's policy conference. And now in studio, we are joined by the president of Umkhonto weSizwe Military Veterans Association, President Kebi Maphatswe. Thank you very much and welcome to Polotiki.
Thank you, Mahlatse.
And maybe let's start it off with the real issues around the economy. Today, you are going into sectoral commissions. MKMVA has made it quite clear that it needs, we need to be moving towards radical economic transformation. Just spell it out for us in terms of what do you mean by that?
Look, what has been happening in the past 2 days in the strategy and tactics and organizational renewal, one of the questions was asked, what do we mean by radical economic transformation? And majority of the delegates here were saying that the economy of our country is structured in a way that it is still reflection of the apartheid era. So we want to change the structure of the manner in which our economy is structured. It's still in the hands of the few, which are the whites and male. So what we want to do is that we want to change that our people, in particular Africans, must play in the economy of our country.
How do we get there?
Look, how do we get there? It will be a process, because you don't want it as juncture. But the reality of the fact is that they themselves, the people who are owning the economy, they must open up for negotiations, that we engage with them, empower our people economically also. We don't want just to say we want to take over the economy, whereas we don't have the skills. So we need people with skills to be there. We've got black business people who have their own organization, that business leadership organizations that have been fighting for transformation of the economy in our country. And I think they are ready now to to take over the economy of our country.
A lot of those business people blame the ANC that we are at this point 23 years after democracy, and they talk about even government procurement. You still find a lot of government procurement going towards white-owned companies. You're finding even black companies competing with the bigger ones, and the bigger ones, which are still white-owned, getting those contracts. As far as you can see, where has been government's failure in terms of that inclusive economy that everybody talks about?
It's a failure of implementation of our policies, but also bureaucracy in government. You know, sometimes our deployees, they get co-opted when they're in government. You are deployed as a minister, you are given policies, you get officials who have been there for many, many years, and they know how to deal with these things. So instead of implementing and empowering our people, they will always empower their people, because some of them have got shares in these companies, and they ultimately co-opt this poor minister and say, we'll give you shares in this company. So you won't change anything there until we change also our people who are there. For an example.
So how do you crack the whip? Because clearly these are your own deployees, this is your own government that is doing all of these things. How do you crack the whip?
I think that our failure is that our monitoring and evaluation has been a problem. Because if it did not have teeth to bite. You know, it could monitor, and then what else after that? So what we're expecting out of this policy conference, not to wait for December. It said there are policies that we said they must be implemented. Those leadership must be called to account. Why are you not implementing this thing? And if you are not implementing it, the president has got a right to remove you, even including the officials. You can fire the officials if they're not implementing the policies of the ruling party.
And Tidi, you can also step in there if you have any questions to the president of MKMVA, Kebi Mapatwe. The issue has been that has been the failings of the ANC, that it's not a policy crisis that you face, but it is an implementation crisis that you actually face. As you're sitting there, are you confronting those that are in positions of power, the president, the ministers in the economic cluster, to say, you have failed us here?
Look, one thing that has made the ANC to fail from our side is that we even factionalize policies. You know, when we get into government, also we go there as factions. So in order to in order to implement our policies, you look at the factions. We discuss amongst ourselves whilst the people are suffering. So there's no movement. So this time around, we need to change that to hold people accountable.
Mr. Mapatwe, you speak about how things are factionalized. You are sitting today, getting at the heart of the policy documents we've seen. Do you think it's possible for the ANC to not factionalize it this time? What makes it different as you sit here this week?
Look, you see, the problem with some of our comrades is that they put the conference before the policies. You see, so they are looking at December. Whereas we are here, we want to say, all of us, when we walk out of this conference, we must speak with one voice about our policies. Unlike we've been speaking with different voices, others saying there's no white monopoly capital, others saying there's white monopoly capital. But those are one people from the ANC. So it is translated in a manner that these are the ones who are supporting this particular faction, these ones are the ones who are supporting this particular faction. But with the diagnostic report of the SG, there's somewhere he speaks about the white monopoly capital, that it has been long there. Even Mbalula played a clip, you know, of Nelson Mandela speaking about the white monopoly capital. And that's where I think most of our seasoned cadres who were saying there's no white monopoly capital, after that presentation in that clip, they now understand that there is white monopoly capital.
You have been accused of driving the factions as the MKMVA. You've been said to be the ones that, for example, you will not allow for President Jacob Zuma, for example, to be held accountable for some of the crises that the party is currently facing, to an extent where we've seen the stalemate within the NEC. What responsibility do you take as the MKMVA?
We're not factionalists as ANC, as MKMVA. We've got our own view that is different from other people. Look, President was accused of being responsible for the ANC to lose the elections in Nelson Mandela, Tshwane, and Joburg. But the fact of the matter is that comrades themselves, they know that in Nelson Mandela, the ANC changed 4 mayors in a year. It's because of the factional battles in that particular region. And they were told that they will lose elections if they continue in that manner. The PEC of that province does not say that to our people, to say, we are the cause of our own to lose elections. In Tshwane, they knew for a fact that Mapiti and Sputla were fighting. The PEC of Gauteng failed to intervene up until they came with a proposal of Otogo Titiza. It was not Jacob Zuma. The people of Tshwane rejected that there was violence. And to recover from that a few weeks before the elections, Zuma was in the forefront there, campaigning for the ANC. So you can't blame Zuma for losing the elections.
KB, are you saying that in the ANC there are ill-disciplined cadres who think the easiest thing to do is to blame the president for everything that goes wrong? Was that ever addressed in commissions this weekend?
Look, in the commission that I was I think after the presentations of the diagnostics report and the organizational report and the strategy and tactics, comrades began to cool down. There's a sense of unity in this conference because comrades are speaking with one voice that we must emerge united out of this
Just
conference.
after 2 days, with December in mind for many of the comrades, they're now speaking with one voice.
About the policies.
About policies.
Yeah,
But succession is a different issue.
Succession is a different. Everyone has got a right to his own, her own preference candidate. You can't stop it. This is the constitution of the ANC.
You have pronounced on your preferred leadership come December 2012. It puts Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as president, and that's going to be who you're backing at that December conference. But with your own comrades have said it's a very factional list when you look at it. It's Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as president. You've got Ace Magashule as Secretary General. The one person who remains, I guess, from this leadership is Jesse Duarte. There's this proposal from KZN that you should have a presidential race and the loser of the presidential race should become deputy president. Is that something that you're backing?
Look, they have to lobby other structures. It's their view as the case at preference. It's nothing wrong to have preference. The problem with our comrades in the ANC is that previously we used to have this contestation, but because we're not owning the resources, the economy, it was not that much difficult. Now that it's about the resources, it's no more about really being leading the ANC. People think that if we elect KB will deploy me in this position and that position. So that was, it's killing the ANC. So once we can bring this political understanding to our people that there's nothing wrong for me to contest with Tsidi. We must sit together, we must not be enemies, we must continue to persuade each other up until at the door of the conference.
But how do you get there? How do you get to the point where comrades understand that it's healthy to have that kind of contestation, that it's not a winner takes all, that blood does not have to be a factor? How do you get there?
You see, the people that we must blame are the people with money.
Within the ANC?
Yes. Sometimes are business people outside who come and influence leaders with money. And at the end, we know that they've got runners in the branches of the ANC. So whether you come and try to give political education, that person is unemployed. He gets money for the conference. So every conference, when it comes, they will tell you, what do you bring on the table? Members of the branches. So the ones that have got more money are the ones that will have more.
So how do you resolve that then?
So
it feels like something that can never be resolved. Like there's no remedy.
There will be. If we come out of this policy conference and say, let us stop using money and the issue of gatekeeping. You know, there's an issue of gating of membership. If you are known to be not supporting a particular candidate, when they go for an audit, they pull your file out of the files. Your file does not go for audit. When you go to the BGM, you are not there. So the ANC at the NGC took a position that whether you are in the final audit or not, as long as you prove that you joined the ANC 6 months before and you have been unfairly treated, you will be allowed to participate.
Some have accused you of being runners for the Gupta family, and that's why you have defended them.
Look, we have been friends with the Guptas and we have not been hiding it as MKMVA. These are the people who came to us as MKMVA to say there are business opportunities. We want to help you get involved in business. And they gave us some of the businesses. And we really appreciate. Even if Rupert can come to us and say he has a business, we will really appreciate it. It's not about the Guptas or whoever. As long as our interests of our people, the welfare of the war veterans, it's our priority.
But you have to worry about how they actually get that business. I mean, you look at these leaked Gupta emails. They show to an extent where some cabinet ministers have shared confidential cabinet memos with them to help them in business. You've looked at emails that show that they have their tentacles reach to state-owned entities, and you have to be worried about how they're actually getting business.
You know, we must allow everybody to get involved in business. And business must be done transparently. And it must benefit our people. And we are against corruption as MKMVA. We're not going to defend corruption. So if there are people who are involved in corruption, necessary steps, disciplinary steps should be taken against them.
Should we take steps now against the cabinet ministers who are implicated in them? Shouldn't we lay charges right now and get them investigated as the ANC, or even DC them, given what has come forward?
You see, one thing the SG said at the diagnostic report is that the problem with the ANC is that once we have opposition parties speaking about other things like your emails and all those things, we go into a panic mode and we rush to take decisions. Now, the president has said there's going to be a judicial commission of inquiry, including the emails. This time around, the public protector is also going to investigate the emails. Parliament also established the portfolio committee is dealing with the issue of the emails. Now, which one is going to be credible? It shows that the ANC sometimes we panic. We don't say, let's allow the processes. If there are allegations, put them to the correct process. The Hawks are investigating that. If there are people who are found to be involved in that, that's what I'm saying, the disciplinary action will be taken against those people.
Shouldn't we hear from President Jacob Zuma saying that I am quite alarmed by the fact that my people that I've considered to be my friends have seemingly misused my name? They have been behind choosing cabinet ministers. We haven't heard that from him throughout this whole period.
Zuma answered in Parliament when he was answering questions that he has never assisted Tutuzani to do business. Tutuzani did business on his own.
But they're using his name in all of this. And the diagnostic report admits that this is harming the ANC. By the time you get to a judicial commission, would probably be at the 2019 elections already.
Now, if we need to speed up the judicial commission of inquiry, we can speed up. But, you know, we don't want to treat the Guptas as if there are other people who are not doing corruption. So we need to treat everybody equal. Corruption is corruption. So if there is a process that has been opened up to say we're going to deal with the issue of the emails. The problem is that we have a situation whereby these emails are not used to deal with corruption, but they are used to deal with the character of President Jacob Zuma.
Because of his close links to them.
President Jacob Zuma has not links. It's his son, Tutuzani, who has got links with the...
But the president said, these are my friends himself. That's a link.
Yes, and that's why he said these Guptas were introduced to him by Esop Pahat. And they were friends also with Thabo Mbeki. Even to an extent that they were even in the advisory council of Thabo Mbeki before.
But so if they were wrong under President Thabo Mbeki and they are wrong under President Jacob Zuma, a wrong equals a wrong.
Look, that's what we're saying. If people are doing business in a corrupt way, we don't have to condone that. We have to condemn that. You must do business in a correct way. Corruption is corruption. If it is wrong, it is wrong. We have to deal with it.
KB, I remember listening to you at a media briefing where you spoke about the judicial inquiry and you wanted to start at a much later stage. Are you not trying to muddy the waters, trying to deflect attention from the fact that there are claims, there is a report by the former public protector that needs us to look into the relationship the Guptas have with President Jacob Zuma and the so-called influence understood that they understood to have over the president?
You see, the problem we're having in the ANC here is that we have been very cautious of dealing with the issue of the apartheid, the inequalities. That is why they're still widening, because if we would have to deal with them, let's go back from 1948. For an example, we have the contracts that have been signed with ESCOM from 1978 for 40 years. And we need to investigate that.
Should that all be part of this judicial commission of
Yes,
inquiry?
Yes. You can't come today, we open a judicial commission of inquiry for this one, tomorrow you deal with this one, tomorrow you deal with this one.
But
You're
when are we going to
confusing
get
our people.
But when are we actually going to get to the truth of this particular issue that South Africa is dealing with at this point in time? Because if we do that, when is it going to be complete? We'll have a judicial inquiry for the next 10 years or so. Do we not want to know about the immediate? Do you not want to know about our current president and his friends and what role they play in our money as taxpayers?
That's the problem, that everybody is talking about the president. And there's no email that speaks about the president there. It speaks about Tutuzani and the other ministers. No name of the president is there. But everybody is saying the president. The president.
When you say that now, does that mean you believe that the emails are legitimate? Because last time we spoke to you, again at a media briefing, you said you question the veracity of those emails. When you say this now, do you now say that you believe those emails are true, are legitimate, that the contents are real?
Look, there's an investigation that has been opened with the Hawks, and the Hawks are investigating those emails. And you must get to the truth of the matter. Where do they originate from? And how did those people get those emails? Because if you get it through my private things, I must also open a case against you. How did you get hold of that thing? I must open a case and charge you for that. So let's allow these processes to unfold. Investigations must proceed, and those who are found to be on the wrong, they must be disciplined.
But personally, do you believe that the contents that are coming out are true, yes or no?
Look, the people who are involved are the ones who are saying, we want you to buy, you know, on such a day. So if those people are saying, yes, indeed, this one is true, why should we say, no, it's not true?
Also, maybe to move on with the conversation, I see you have been pushing very strongly around this regime change agenda, and we see it found itself in the diagnostic report by the SG. I mean, how real? People are saying this is paranoia on the part of the ANC, that the West is trying to advocate for a regime change in this country.
It's not only a regime change in South Africa only. If you check at Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Angola, they tried it. Namibia, it's at a very low level. It's to disorganize the former liberation armies. In Zimbabwe, they tried with many NGOs. That's what we call about the color revolution. So there have been many NGOs established, funded by the West. Here in South Africa, it's worse because we've got too much democracy. We have NGOs.
Too much democracy?
Yes, in our constitution. We have NGOs that are taking government to court on everything that we do. Even if it is the interest of our people, they'll take it to court. That's why the president was saying the opposition parties, they are using these NGOs. Everything that we want to do, they take it to court.
But I mean, they take it to court based on accountability. A lot of the times it's because the government does not do things correctly. Let's take, for example, al-Bashir and him leaving the country. The court found that, you know, you should have arrested al-Bashir, for example. On the issue of Nkandla, it was a matter of the public protector has, her powers are actually binding, and President Jacob Zuma should have paid the money. There's nothing where the NGOs are challenging you on delivering water, delivering electricity.
No, look, with the issue of the public protector, we're not legal people. It's for the first time that we now understand that the recommendations of the public protector are binding unless you take them on review. We have learned, and we did not run away from that. Now we understand that the recommendations of the public protector are binding.
That very statement that you just made now, doesn't that show you how little knowledge our leaders have in the systems that are running the country? They have little legal knowledge, which is part of the reason why you end up in the Constitutional Court so often. Shouldn't the ANC maybe pause a little bit and maybe try and understand the system that it finds itself functioning within? Understand what constitutional democracy actually means. Do you not think that you are lacking as a party on that part?
You know, what we have accepted as the ANC is that we need also to have strong lawyers. Because sometimes we get weak lawyers as the state.
Is it weak lawyers, or it's just a matter of a weak case?
No, no.
I mean, you've had
No,
Bartlander,
no,
for example, defending the president. That's a strong...
The fact of the matter is that, Mahlatsi, is that some of our lawyers, they don't do research. It's true. Some of the lawyers, they don't do research. They say, "No, I will win that case." Some of the lawyers, they do research, and you will hear them when they urge that this one, they've made their research. So we have accepted that we need to get lawyers that have made research and experience. We want to transform the judiciary. We also want to empower our lawyers to be in the same level as the Werkmans, you see. So sometimes we employ such people to help us with our cases.
When you talk about too much democracy, what is the alternative? What is wrong with our current democracy? And I ask this based on the conversations that we've been hearing. For example, the Women's League talked about how we must review constitutional democracy as it stands because it gives too much power to the courts. It also gives too much power to Chapter 9 institutions like the public protector. Is that a view that the MKMVA shares?
Look, when we came into power, we thought maybe because we were the last liberation movement to achieve power, we have learned from other revolutions. The mistake that we did is that we were supposed to say we're at a developmental state. We're not a developed state. So if you check the Constitution of South Africa, compare it to America or other developed states, they don't have some of the things that are there in our constitutions because they know that these things, they work against them. So we were very excited about our freedom, and we thought these things will never happen in South Africa. An example, it's not a constitution thing, your rules in parliament. You have rules that were established that there will never be disruption in parliament. But when the EFF came in and behaved in a manner that is unparliamentary, you have to change the rules. Similarly, with
Which
the Constitution.
part of the Constitution, yeah, would you like to review?
So, look, we're talking about the Section 25 of the Constitution because it mainly speaks about the economy of the issue of the land. Because if you want to expropriate land without compensation, you still have to go, if you don't expropriate without compensation, you must go and negotiate with the property owners. You will end up in court every day and every day. So if we amend the Constitution, that part of the Constitution, it becomes easy to restore dignity and to restore land back to our people.
But the argument has been that in terms of land, the Constitution allows you to actually redistribute land. The failure has been on the part of government. Even with the land that has been redistributed, we haven't seen it being used effectively. Some people have already even left that land and are not using it for agricultural produce.
Look, we had a willing buyer, willing seller that we proposed, and it did not work, you see. Now, if it does not work, what do you do as a government? We're not talking about look, there's been redistribution of land. And we must also accept that some of us made a mistake in government, that our people, we gave them land back. What happened, they sold the land back again to the whites or other people. What we're talking about now is that we must skill our people on how to work the land productively. so that we deal with this issue of poverty and inequalities and unemployment.
Maybe to end it off, anything else that you will be putting forward at this policy conference that you want this conference to consider?
Look, as MKMVA, we wanted the expropriation of land without compensation. We think it's going well in the commissions. We said we want a radical economic transformation, and people must understand there's white monopoly capital, and it's going well because it was presented and people understand that there's white monopoly capital. But on the side of MKMVA, we thought also of the welfare of our comrades, that we are not doing enough as a government. So in 2007, we proposed the Ministry of Military Veterans, but implemented, we were reconfigured into part of the defense, which we are saying in this conference, we still want to revert back to the 2007 resolution.
You want your own ministry?
Yes, we want our own ministry, but also on security. You have seen what is happening at our national key points, OR Tambo. People are killed, there's what you call heist at your national key points. That's undermining of the state. So we want something like an agency within the South African police that will have patriotic people who will work there and make sure there's no crime that is happening at your national key points.
Would those patriotic people be former MK?
Yes, you'll have your former MK, your former APLA people, including your former soldiers.
What, I mean, are you saying that
Africans.
the current security forces doesn't have capacity? But
Some of them are corrupt. In fact, we have found out from our comrades is that if you go there, you lock your bag in the locker. When you get out there, you must open it up and upside down, take out everything, because they can set you up. Put drugs there because you are working against there's a mafia there that is working there. Some of them are police.
But KB was to say that the MK's officials wouldn't be influenced in a similar way. At some point we'll have a similar issue, even with members of the MKMVA.
No, you see, that is why we're saying our people, because they are patriotic. They understand the security of our country first. Even if you can say, yes, 10,000, he will never take 10,000.
But technically, MKMVA is made up of people that are, you know, aging,
on,
that are
yeah.
moving on. How do you then have them at national key points?
Yeah, you see, you go to other countries, you see old people pushing the trolleys there.
Yeah.
Those people, some of them are intelligence people. They are gathering information there, you'll never see it. So we're saying we're aging, but we'll also have people that, young people that we need to educate about patriotism. So that when we move out, they must come in.
So at some point our MKs will be young people.
No.
It'll
MK
be a
is
whole
not-
different agency
no.
together.
MK is aging, you're correct. Our people are aging. There's a last generation that is coming after us. There's last generation, and there are not many, but we think they can do a lot of work. That is why we need to educate our youth about patriotism. Last day I was talking about the rule of law. As I was saying, there's too much democracy here. Other countries are complaining to say, you know what is happening in South Africa? It's going to affect us. We must have the rule of law in our country. You can't have people, when they demonstrate, they go and burn hospital. And we say, no, when the police, they go and beat them up, we're saying, no, it's human rights. So it's too much democracy. There must be a rule of law in our country.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there because we are fast running out of time. That was the president of MKMVA, President Kebi Mapatso, joining us there, and also our politics journalist, T.D. Madia, who is covering this policy conference for us. We are coming live to you from the Nasrec Expo Center. This is where the ANC is holding its 5th National Policy Conference. Just to recap on what Kebi Mapatso had to say, he's saying that we must have former MK veterans at our national key points to protect it, basically saying that some of those that are in the security forces currently are not patriotic enough, and it is the MK that can be able to protect it. Obviously, he wouldn't talk a lot about, you know, how do you keep that force or that agency going? Because technically the MK vets should be an aging population. But to get into the crux of this and analyze this even further, I'm joined by resident analyst Ralph Mateja and Mpumelelo Mkabela. And let me ask you, let's start there. Kevin Mapatso is saying the veterans should be guarding our national key points, Ralph.
I think that's laughable. Practically, I don't know how you come into contact with a 31-year-old veterans. I mean, which did they really participate in the struggle? You need younger people to be able to do that. But I also think he has admitted to some of very interesting thing, admitted to that there is corruption within the police, but also not taking it further, I think, because you do have the leadership itself that is being compromised. I mean, you cannot go and say you're going to clean the bureaucracy within the public service, including the police, without showing it at leadership level that actually corruption will not be tolerated. And also very controversial as well. I mean, President Jacob Zuma has said this before, that if you give him a few days as a dictator, he will be able to clean up South Africa. And then we see the same view that is happening. I'm worried because I imagine, I mean, if you didn't have democracy, or if you lessen on democracy as MKVA is demanding.
What is the alternative?
You're actually going to not have a problem with things such as Nkandla. I mean, the executive will just indulge, because what we are hearing here is a call for executive indulgence. It's quite concerning.
And they're asking now for their own ministry, Mpumelelo, to say that they need their own ministry to take care of the vets. What did you make of that?
No, actually, I don't think we should take lightly what he's saying. I mean, he's making very serious allegations against the security forces of the country. The biggest allegation he's making, besides the allegations of corruption, is that the security forces are not patriotic. Only the MKMVA would serve the country in a patriotic manner. They would be able to safeguard the national key point like OR Tambo International Airport. I mean, I think a statement like that would really call into the need for the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Police and the generals to really look into it, because he is not a lightweight person, Mapatso, in the ANC and also in the MKMVA structure. He's the president of the MKMVA. And for somebody to make those kinds of allegations against the security forces, all of which are headed by former MK soldiers, or they are in senior positions. In the army, they are there. In the SAPS, they are there. In the intelligence, state security, they are there. And for him to make these kinds of allegations, I don't think we should laugh about it. For me, I think it's very serious. Either he should prove what he's saying, that that these people are not patriotic, they cannot be trusted, or else he must withdraw.
And people tend to undermine the voice of the MKMVA, but we've seen it grow in the past few years, as even though they don't have voting rights within the ANC, but we've seen their voice quite influential within the party.
Indeed, their space has been growing within the party. And what is even more interesting is that you listen to their views most of the times. You find that their views are actually even shared at the highest level. The views that he's expressing about democracy in South Africa, that it is actually the main cause of the problem. The problem is not corruption, but the problem is with democracy. These are the views that are being shared by people at the highest within cabinet. So you then have to ask yourself that if you have taken an oath of office in South Africa, which is based on the Constitution, which means that you have actually taken an oath to go and fulfill what is in the Constitution, and then you come and say that some of the provisions of our Constitution, which have got to do with democracy, are going away too much, then it all makes sense now why it is not a problem, I think, within certain circles within the ANC for people to actually violate the Constitution, because what is coming out clear is that people are saying that they do not hold the Constitution very high. And I think we should really talk about that. People who are in power in high places, whose authority is being actually, managed by this Constitution, or maybe limited by this Constitution, you have them raising concern, showing that there is no commitment to the constitutional principle. People are saying it out there. What do we do?
And it's a voice that is
coming out there?
increasing. It's a voice that is increasing. It's a voice that we've heard from the Women's League talking about a review of our constitutional democracy. President Jacob Zuma himself spoke about a funny democracy, and he repeats this and his version of democracy. He's not happy with the fact that the opposition can take him to court and force him to account. Mpumelelo, with this increasing talk around our constitution, should we really be worried?
We should be worried. It's very dangerous talk they are making, because let's take the issue of the courts, for example. I mean, if you attack the courts like that, you're actually trying to demean them. You're trying to take away the legitimacy that they have. And once people in the street do the same, because these politicians have got a following. They've got a lot of people who follow them. People look up to them. So what they say resonates sometimes with people on the ground. Now, if people were to take what the president is saying to its logical conclusions, why would they not go around and murder people? Why would they not go around and kill? Why would they not go around and burn buildings? Why would they not feel proud that they're actually doing what they're doing in Vuwani, burning schools and public? Because they will be thinking, no, this democracy doesn't work for us. Because these people, they change the border. We tell them, don't change the border. They tell us, no, it's not us, it's the demarcation board. It's about viability of a municipality. The people can say, no, this thing doesn't work for us. So this democracy is too much for us. It's not working. We were going to do our own thing. And so actually, as a president, you're actually buttressing those kinds of feelings in communities. You are fueling it. And you might be doing it in the context of saying, I'm protecting myself as a president. But the underlying impact, the underlying consequences are that you're going to have chaos in society.
And maybe to move the conversation along, today it's, some have called it the real battle of ideas is starting today. The ANC delegates are going into different commissions, and we're expecting that battle around economic transformation to dominate. And already KB Mapatso is suggesting that, in terms of ideology or defining it, they are winning that conversation around white monopoly capital. But what I'm struggling with is that, can South Africans expect any real tangible proposals in terms of reversing the unemployment rates, in terms of actually even increasing black people's participation in the wider economy?
I don't know whether the ultimate goal for some members of the ANC to be here is to win an argument or to win the war of disciples, to shout the loudest, and then you call it a win. Whereas you can see clearly that they are not finding each other as to how to respond to the problems of poor levels of transformation within the country. I mean, they're saying they are winning this war, they are pushing this idea of a white monopoly capital. You listen to the ANC in Gauteng, they're saying that, no, this is not an issue. This does not actually talk to the substance. The substance is monopoly. We are meant to deal with the question of monopoly. So is the ANC going to leave this with a united front? Are they going to leave with creative ideas that will actually help South Africa go forward? I really have doubt, because you don't go into a debate and come out and say, I have won. Nobody wins a debate. What you're doing is to try to talk and convince others, and you need to come out of a debate, you yourself having been enlightened, having come up with a better idea to deal with the challenges. I don't think that is the spirit that you get from members of ANC. For them, it's about, we won, the diagnostic report has been tabled, we won, this won, this won this. It shouldn't be the goal here.
Bumi?
Well, I think the problem here is, and KB admitted to it, that the MKMVA get money from the Guptas.
Yeah.
The Guptas set up businesses and all of that. And we know how the Guptas make money. They basically make money by stealing from South Africans via all manner of funny schemes that they do. And if somebody is already sponsored by people like the Guptas, and he comes here and he defends them, you can imagine what kind of policies he's going to advocate there. He can't advocate policies that are contrary to what the Guptas are trying to do in South Africa. So he's going to do everything in his power to advocate that which the Guptas would like to see. And the Guptas would like to see the weakening of our institutions so that there's no accountability. They can do what they want to do without being questioned. They want to ensure that whatever was supposed to come to black people as part of transformation of the economy, be it all of those licenses for black people to enter into mainstream economy, all of that is channeled to the Guptas. We know what is happening at the SOE, whether it's Transnet, whether it's ESCOM. The procurement system has not been transformed enough. But the very little that is supposed to come to black people goes to the Guptas.
And the fact that they've been naturalized, and we now talk about the mining charter, and they would qualify as a black business, as me and you as South Africans born in this country.
It's quite concerning, Mahlatsi, and what even worries me more about this is, Kebi saying that the Guptas came and offered business, they took business, and if the Ruperts come, for me, I feel like I'm listening to someone who's saying, let us democratize corruption. Why can't we all have a field day and all gain? Because that is exactly what he's saying. You raised a question there that, but we know that this money that the Guptas are redistributing among some of you, it's your own taxpayers. It's a stolen money. We do have evidence pointing to that. The emails are there showing that. And for Kebi, it doesn't matter. And this for me raises a fundamental problem that I think we have in South Africa. How do we relate to the state? He's tend to be believing that you can actually steal from the state and redistribute, because I don't think he respects the legitimacy of the state. And that is quite a concern coming from higher office, where the very same person is talking about people not showing patriotism. I have a concern about what is the basis of his patriotism.
Well, that's the thing, because if he is talking about patriotism and assuming he's a very patriotic person, he loves South Africa and all of that, why is he allowing the MKMVA to be infiltrated by the Guptas, who are laundering money out of this country, and some of it is repatriated back only to fund things like weddings? Why? You tried to ask him to say, but what is going on here? And he couldn't even get himself to condemn anything that is wrong. I mean, instead of saying, for example, what has come out of the emails is horrifying, it's embarrassing to the ANC. He dark around the issue. He
darks around the issue.
He can't even agree that with the diagnostic report, at least the diagnostic report gives a bit of a basis on which we can discuss the matter that is harming the ANC. Instead, he says, no, we need to discuss the origins of these emails. We need to investigate. People's privacy has been invaded. How did they get hold of the emails?
And the Judicial Commission of Inquiry must go into the apartheid era, even though that diagnostic report talks about that we can't be comparing ourselves with the apartheid government, which ourselves have said it's illegitimate. So if there was corruption under the apartheid regime, we can't be saying we are comparing ourselves and should be equals to that.
Now what it means is that if you're going to have the MKMVA that he's talking about doing the patriotic duty of looking after the security of the state and national key points like the airport, imagine what would they do in the context of the emails, in pursuit of the patriotic duty. What they would do, according to him, was that they would actually go and investigate who leaked these emails, instead of investigating what the emails are saying.
And they don't have a concern with the influence of interest groups in South African politics. It's something that I think doesn't worry them as MKVA. And there is also this naivety that I think even if you go to 8th grader kids, they'll tell you are wrong. The idea that Duduzane is a business person, he just happened to see opportunities. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he is the son of the president. I mean, he's saying that the president is not being implicated in any of this email. Really, I mean, people are trading political influence here, and the cornerstone of the center of what is happening here is because of the power of the president. He knows this. He has never said anything about it, and then now just because he's not being mentioned directly in the emails, the MKVA says that no, this is just a big misunderstanding.
And that disjuncture between the leader of the party and the leader of the state and what happens within his cabinet, because he's basically saying that there's nothing wrong that President Jacob Zuma has done, but the diagnostic report tells us that the firing of Nhlanhla Nene contributed to their decline at the polls. It's also telling us the whole issue of Nkandla contributed to why the ANC lost 3 metros, especially Tshwane and also Johannesburg. But according to him, there must be a differentiation between the president and then what his cabinet does, and even what happens in those metros.
Well, the interesting thing is that the diagnostic report doesn't say those things out of Tamsak or something.
It's research, their own internal research that they did.
Which they found these trends among voters before the election. They went to the elections knowing these are the issues that are going to affect us. But they were still defensive going to the elections. Perhaps they didn't believe their own research. And then afterwards, Then that's when they said, hey guys, we need to introspect. By that time, there was no need to really introspect anything because any introspection would have shown them that their research before the elections was actually correct.
But they have they done anything to correct any of those perceptions that lingers on South Africa's mind in 2013?
I think that the problem is to try to explain away everything else to conspiracy. Because, I mean, even if the diagnostic report almost get there, you can say it delves into that conspiracy. Once in a while, it goes into, Western forces and all that. The problem with the ANC is they will identify a problem and they will not take responsibility for it. They will go towards great lengths in terms of avoiding saying that this is because of leader so and so. There is always an attempt to try to articulate the problems in this abstract manner instead of, for me, these are simple issues. Their research shows that they do have a problem with people in urban areas because of the flow of information. It means that the more knowledgeable a person becomes, the less they're going to trust the ANC. They're not being aware of that. I think it's outright denial.
And I guess that spells even doom and gloom for Gauteng if you consider that they got out of the 2014 elections with just 53%, with issues that affected them mostly at the national level. Mpumi?
Yeah, you heard from Balula yesterday when he made his own presentation that they are battling to deal with what he calls the middle strata. And he talks about how these people, they were a creation of the ANC through the opportunities that the ANC has created. And he even said to journalists, yeah, even you guys are educated and you are best journalists just because the ANC, managed to create opportunities for you. And people laughed. But it's not a laughing matter. The ANC is really battling to actually understand the attitude of the middle strata, which is very unfortunate and quite ironic in a sense that the ANC was created by the middle class. The people who sat in 1912 and decided to form the ANC were the intellectuals, the crema de la crema of black society. They were propertied people. They were not poor. That's the first thing. And
doctors,
secondly, they were educated,
treated,
which is why they were able to understand the oppressive system. They were able to analyze because they had the capacity to do so. So it's quite strange and quite dramatic that the ANC, just over 100 years later, when it should have grown and matured, even developed even better analytical skills, better than the 1912 generation, it is regressing. It's unable to understand the very same class that led to its own formation.
Well, unfortunately, gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. We've actually run out of time. Those are resident analyst Mpumelelo Mkabela and Ralph Mateja. But please do join us in the afternoon. We're expecting a report from Natim Tetra, who's been leading the strategy and tactics document, where we will get a sense of what the ANC is planning to do with, as Mpumi was saying, the middle class, because they are realizing now that they are in danger when it comes to the black middle class. How do they reach out to them? The black middle class that is unhappy with how the ANC is handling some of its internal crises and even some of the allegations around corruption. That has been our special edition of Polotiki, brought to you by News 24. My name is Mahlatse Kalens, and we will be bringing you more from here, from the ANC's 5th National Policy Conference. That's it from now.